I had someone tell me just the other day they were expressing their concerns and their fears and their worry about their income, the lack of their income, the possibility of them losing their jobs and their families being homeless, becoming homeless, and thrown out on the street as they just received a notice that their rent was going to be going up. And this is something that's going on. This is very common across America, as inflation is suffocating the life out of the lower income middle class families trying to survive. And I've seen increases of $100 a month. I've seen rent going up $200 a month. I've even seen rent in some instances going up $500 more per month. $500 a month. Let's talk about that. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. And the average American at this point in time is probably barely bringing home $50,000. So can you imagine if you're pulling in 50 grand a year before tax, knowing the government's going to take a substantial portion for themselves, for the IRS? You got 87,000 new IRS agents hungry that they have to pay for. And you're saying to yourself, it's already hard enough as it is. I don't know how I'm going to make it. Barely making ends meet now. Bills are piling up. Debt's piling up. Credit cards are maxed out. I have nowhere to turn. Savings account is drained. It's on empty. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is out of his mind. There's no savings left from these stimulus checks. I'm not lazy. I want to work. I just can't afford to survive. This is just too much. Can you imagine being in that position, perhaps maybe even earning less than $50,000 a year? Think about it, especially single income households, single moms, single mothers, single parents. You're on your own. You don't have dual incomes, and your time is probably extremely limited on your availability and possibility of picking up another job or second job or finding a new job or a better job to make more money. The job market is at risk. Jerome Powell and the Fed have already warned that they want to slow down the economy and that millions of Americans are going to lose their jobs as a result of that, as an attempt to potentially slow down inflation, which he's not even sure if it will even work. But just think about it. If you even make $50,000 a year, possibly, maybe, comment down below. I'm very curious. But even if you do, and your rent went up $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year after tax. So you would need to at least make $6,000 more. We're talking about going from 50 grand a year to $56,000 a year. But wait, that's before tax. So we'll just figure, they're going to take tax out. So you're probably looking at going from making $50,000 a year to making $60,000 a year. And in your experience, how often have you received an annual raise of $10,000? How often have you received an annual raise of 20%? The average raise is about 2% per year, which was typically only in place to keep up with inflation, which most people didn't realize. They thought that they were going to get this raise because they were putting in their work, putting in hard work and time, devoting their lives to these companies and, getting performance reviews and things like that. But all these companies were doing were actually only trying to keep up with inflation. It wasn't even actually a raise. Yeah, on paper, mentally, maybe it feels that way. You would think that. But at the end of the day, if you really were to crunch the numbers, it was only just to keep up with inflation. Meanwhile, the businesses and companies were probably increasing their profits, increasing their revenues by double-digit figures, 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30%. Oh, and don't get me started on the businesses that had opportunities to capitalize on free government money through the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, which there were two of those, by the way, and EIDL loans, grants, government grants, tons of money, bailouts, corporate bailouts from the Fed, from the government, buying out debt. And now we have bail-ins. Oh, yeah, that's right. Banks and businesses, large corporations have the available option of bail-ins that basically allow them to write off debts and pretty much hold on to people's money as they recognize and realize losses from the downward decline of the economy, which is really only slated to get worse. As, like I said, Jerome Powell himself said, they're trying to slow the economy. They're trying to crush the housing market. They're trying to, quote unquote, bring back affordable housing. But in doing so, they're raising interest rates and making it more expensive to borrow money. Now, that's not making houses more affordable, if you ask me. And if you ask the average investor, which is a typical middle income, higher middle, upper middle income earner looking to invest in real estate, which is proven to be, or has been proven to be, one of the best wealth building tools and wealth building vehicles out there historically, they typically are purchasing these investment properties with mortgages and loans attached to them. But guess what? With the Fed raising interest rates by another 75 basis points just a few weeks ago, and potentially another 75 or even 100 basis points next go round in just a few weeks when we get the latest CPI reports back, think about the investors that are going to be looking to potentially buy investment properties and have to pay higher interest rates, and or possible owners with adjustable rate mortgages who kind of missed the boat, and now their adjustable rate ARM mortgages are going to increase at these higher interest rates. Okay, sure, that isn't everyone. These are outliers. There are exceptions to the rule, but with those exceptions, they're not oblivious. They're not ignoring the market. They're not blind to the fact that prices are going up. And even though they may not personally experience any increases in their overhead expenses and obligations, they'll see that the rental market prices are going up as well. And guess what? They're going to follow suit, and they're going to capitalize and do what they can to recoup and gather up as much profit as possible. So that just means that the Fed is also behind what's driving the force behind higher rent prices. And this can be in apartments, this can be in mobile homes, this can be in modular homes, this could be in rental homes, this could be in a townhouse, a duplex, a condo. It doesn't matter. The Fed is driving this economy. The Fed determines whether or not the housing market goes up or the housing market goes down. The Fed determines whether or not the stock market goes up or the stock market goes down. The Fed even determines whether or not the cryptocurrency market goes up or goes down based on their monetary policies, quantitative tightening, and the interest rates and the Fed rates and the buy rates and the base Fed rates that they control. They control this all. Now, with that being said, for the young lady who was telling me and extremely worried and concerned about her rent going up, and the fact that she probably at this point in time doesn't feel as though she'll ever have the opportunity of being a homeowner, let alone barely trying to keep up and survive and take care of her son on her own. We walked through a few different scenarios and possible opportunities that a lot of folks are probably going to need to explore very, very soon. As you know, if your income is not going up, but all your expenses are, you're going to have a solution. Otherwise, you're going to get upside down. You're going to be driven into a deep hole of debt, possible bankruptcy, defaults, foreclosures, evictions, job loss, an attack on your mental health and your overall morale, and possible likelihood of homelessness and extreme food insecurity. So you guys, please pay attention. Please be aware. And be doing your best to tighten your budgets and work on strategies and plans, perhaps maybe even sharing some of these expenses and lower your obligations. But at the end of the day, you're going to need to see an increase in your income as a way to fight this until we see some sort of reversal or possible pivot from the Fed that is pushing the lowest income earners pretty much out of existence and the middle class down a notch, making it harder and harder to survive.